Hello everyone, welcome to Spiritual Saturday Book Club. Sorry for the little bit of me starting the session off the screen and then coming into the screen. I'm doing the session without an assistant today. So if this is your first time joining us, these sessions are basically covered by either myself or another member of the Kechara, and what we'll be doing is we'll be taking you through various books by Kechara and basically explaining it a little bit more. That's what a book club is, right? To explain and to discuss. So that's what we're going to be doing today. The book that we're going to be using is called Gurus for Hire, Enlightenment for Sale, and this is one of the most I'd say it's probably one of the most important books that we have published here in Kechara so far. Now, last week, the session that I did, I took everybody over the motivation. Why motivation is so important for the Buddhist path, basically, and why it is important on our spiritual journey. So let me just check who's online. Sukfan's online. Good morning, Iman. Gillian Lin, good morning. Iman as well, Pastor Antoinette and Pastor Hani. Mr. Lam is also online. Thanks everyone for joining today's session of Book Club. So I can appreciate the fact that not everybody out there is going to have a copy of this book. So what I'm going to be doing is that throughout these sessions is I'm actually going to be reading through the text and then explaining it as we go. So this text is actually divided into three sections. The first section is on the Guru, or the spiritual teacher, and this is a very, very important topic within Tibetan Buddhism and actually Buddhism in general. And the reasons will be made clear over the next couple of sessions that we do for Book Club, because obviously we'll be going through why a guru is so important. The second section is actually about the center, and by the center I mean the Dharma organization. So that's what Kechara House is, or the Kechara organization. So that includes everything from Kechara House, from Kechara Forest Retreat, all of our various departments that we have. And that section actually basically goes through how people should think about the center, how people should interact with other people within the center, and things to do and things you shouldn't do, things you should look out for, things that you should be mindful of in your own conduct within a particular Dharma center. And that's actually very important, because a lot of people actually forget that, well, they don't forget, but they don't keep in mind that there are certain things that you should do or that you shouldn't do, that you should refrain from doing when you're at a Dharma center, and actually what the correct way is to actually behave and interact with others in a Dharma center. And that's actually very, very important. And the third section of it is actually to do with the self, what you should do, how you should practice, okay? But the section on the self is actually the smallest section out of the whole book. So this book is mainly about conduct, and not just conduct, but also ways to change your mindset, as it were, when it comes to having a guru and having a Dharma center, and what it means to be part of a Dharma center. Because a lot of us come at Dharma with certain conceptions, with certain preconceived notions, you could say, of what Dharma practice is, and of how we should benefit from it, and also the center, how the center should benefit us. Okay, so we have all these notions, and all of this is covered within this book. So this book is basically for anyone who is a Buddhist, but also be part of a Dharma center or attending a Dharma center. So let's just check who else is online. Jacinta Go is also online, and Sharon Ong. Good morning to both of you, and thank you for joining this session. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the session on the Guru. And the way that Rinpoche started the session on the... So this book is based on a 3-day teaching that His Eminence Tsem Rinpoche gave many years ago. And actually the full video of that teaching is actually online. It's on Rinpoche's YouTube channel. It's called Gurus for Higher, Enlightenment for Sale, as the name of the book. And it is not just one video actually, because the teachings that Rinpoche gave were maybe, I don't know, hours and hours every day, at least probably around 10 hours a day for those 3 days. So I think there's 16 parts on YouTube, which if you have the time, I do suggest that you go and watch, because Rinpoche explains things very well. And this book, in essence, isn't the contents of the entire talk. It is a distilled summary, basically, of some of the key points that Rinpoche mentioned within it. I've also just seen that Sheen has joined as well. Thank you very much for joining. Good morning. Now, since we're going to be covering the Guru over the next couple of sessions, if you do have any questions regarding the Guru or our relationship with him or her, or how we should view the Guru, or why the Guru is so important, please do ask in the comment section here, and I'll answer them today or in a future session. So the first section that Rinpoche explains about was Rinpoche's root Guru, and that was His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche. I think everybody here is quite familiar. Everybody's watching is probably quite familiar already. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to read over the couple of read the section on His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche, and then we can see and we can go from there. Okay? So at the top of the page, there's just a little quote by Rinpoche. I felt I was collecting merits with a person without faults, that everything that I did would accelerate my Dharma practice and my Dharma attainments. So this book is written in Rinpoche's voice, because it's basically a cleaned up transcript of what Rinpoche actually said. So when I was 17, I was elected by the center in Los Angeles, which the center's name was Tupten Dar Gyalin, to be the assistant to His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche, my root Guru. A few powerful sponsors in the center were totally against it. They told Kechara. Kechara was the head sangha of that particular Dharma center, and he had invited His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche to come to the Dharma center and to give various Dharma teachings and various initiations to his students. And at that time, Rinpoche had hitchhiked from New Jersey and had arrived in LA and had been living there for a while, and was living at the Dharma center, if I remember correctly at this point. And he was chosen, Geshe-la chose Tsem Rinpoche to be His Holiness Kyabje Dzong Rinpoche's assistant during that time. So he was, in the sense that he would cook and he would clean, as will be explained here. I think most of you probably already know this story, and if you've gone through Pastor David's sessions on The Promise, which was the book that was being explained before this, then I think everyone should be familiar with it. A few powerful sponsors in the center were totally against it. They told Geshe-la, "No way, he's such a bad representation of Dzong Rinpoche. He's just a kid. Look at the way he looks, his hair, the way he dresses. That is going to represent one of the greatest living Dharma teachers of Tibet. Certainly we can do better. I looked like a freak, I admit it. But when I heard it, I was very hurt. I almost cried, but it made me push myself much more. I served Rinpoche in the center. I cooked for Rinpoche, his entourage, my Geshe-la and their guests. I made 7 trays of food every single day for 6 months. Each tray would have food for Rinpoche, 2 of Rinpoche's German students, the translator's uncle, and the 2 monks who were Rinpoche's assistants. I remember laying down 7 trays every day in the kitchen. I had to prepare everything for them because they were Rinpoche's entourage and I needed to take care of them. I did not know how to cook, so I had to ask anyone who had the time to show me how to cook. I could not talk to Dzong Rinpoche directly in the beginning, so I asked translators to find out what food he liked and what his schedule was like. I would serve Rinpoche first. I would get up early in the morning and bring breakfast to Rinpoche. I would offer him the breakfast and make 3 prostrations immediately. I made prostrations because I did not know how long I could be with him, and I did not want to prostrate to a statue. I wanted to prostrate to a living Buddha. Then I would go to my teacher Geshe-la, offer him breakfast and make sure everything was all right. After that, I would offer breakfast to the translator, his uncles, Rinpoche's 2 assistants, and the 2 German ladies. By the time I finished offering breakfast to the last person, I would go back up and wait by Rinpoche while he was eating. If there was something left, I would ask his permission to eat his leftovers. I wanted his saliva because I wanted something he had bitten every day. I would even eat crumbs because I believed very much in my Guru. I would wash his cups and his plates first, clean them, and put them in the highest shelf in the kitchen, without damaging anything. Sometimes I would wash his silverware twice, wipe it very carefully so that none of it was dirty or sticky. I would put everything away in a special place so no one could touch his items. I even put up a sign in case anybody made a mistake. This was an opportunity to serve my Guru. Then I would do the same with Geshe-la's and everyone else's breakfast. If there were leftovers, I would give them to the dogs outside and feed the cat at the center. If I had time, I would clean the kitchen and put everything away. I would take a shower quickly, get dressed and go to work until about 2 or 3 o'clock. I would come home by about 3 o'clock and start cooking dinner. I also had to run to the store to do the shopping, wash, prepare and cook everything. I knew only a few dishes and it was a challenge to cook for 7 people each day. Sometimes, if I burned the food, I would have to do it all over very quickly. I hated cooking, but Geshe-la wanted me to do it. I would cook dinner and make 7 trays of food again with drinks. Rinpoche liked Tibetan tea, and there was a certain way he liked it, so I would make it that way, with just the right amount of butter. Then I would serve Dzong Rinpoche. I would go upstairs, offer dinner to him and make 3 prostrations. Sometimes, when I was not in such a big rush, I would have the luck to sit near him and massage his feet. I would do my best to massage his feet every day, and I would kiss his feet because I read in an Indian tantric manual that to show the deepest respect to someone very high is to touch the lowest part of their body. Rinpoche made it a game after a while. He would show me his foot, and when I tried to grab it, he would quickly pull back and laugh. When I grabbed it, I would put it on my head and I would kiss it. Tibetans do not kiss. I did it because I had grown up with American culture. It was my way to show my reverence to him because I could not speak his language. This actually reminds me a lot of what Ladrang was like when His Eminence Tsem Rinpoche was here. Ladrang is a Lama's personal household. So the function of a Ladrang is basically to serve the Lama in any way. so that the Lama can spread the Dharma. He can go about his day without the normal things without having to worry about the normal things that we all worry about. So when we wake up, we worry about, okay, what's for breakfast, and then we have to go to work, and then during work we need to go eat lunch, and then after we get home we need to do the washing, we need to have dinner again, things like that. So the daily necessities that a person goes through that a person needs is actually a Ladrang's responsibility for the Lama, because it is believed that the Lama should actually focus on the Dharma, on teaching, on helping other people, on doing Dharma work. Okay? And so in this bit that I've just read out, it was talking about cooking for Rinpoche. So Tsem Rinpoche in this case was cooking for Dzong Rinpoche, Geshe-la, and Dzong Rinpoche's assistants. Now in Ladrang, there was a few of us, and Ladrang was basically made up of the writers' team. So the people who write, who helped Rinpoche write the articles for tsemrinpoche.com, were also the people that were helping Rinpoche in the Ladrang. So they were the Ladrang team basically. And as said here, everybody needs to eat every day, and so the Ladrang team would take turns sometimes, or sometimes there was an actual appointed 1 or 2 people that were actually there to cook for Rinpoche. Now Rinpoche's tastes in food varied quite a bit. He was obviously he was brought up in America, so he had very American tastes, a sense of American food, and also because he had been in a Tibetan monastery, he also liked Tibetan food. And then because the monastery was in India, Rinpoche was very, very fond of Indian food, and also having lived in Malaysia for so long, Rinpoche was used to having Chinese food as well. So Rinpoche's tastes varied a lot, and so every day we had a team that would cook for Rinpoche. But actually Rinpoche, even within the Ladrang team, within the writers team, and even within other people, the other teams of people working in KFR, Rinpoche actually made sure that everybody was fed. So on certain days it would be Ladrang's responsibility to actually go out and to cook. And sometimes we would spend the entire day cooking for other people within Kechara Forest Retreat. I'm sure that the people who have worked here, I see that Sharon's online, and who else? Sharon's online, Pastor Antoinette is also here, and Martin is also online. I've just seen. They would all know that Rinpoche loved to make sure that people were fed. And so he would get Ladrang, including myself and some of the other pastors as well, to make sure that everybody was fed. And he would actually have us learn up different cuisines, different ways of cooking, to make sure that we kind of catered to everybody who would actually come to Kechara Forest Retreat. I remember there was this one time a couple of years ago when I had first joined Ladrang in Kechara Forest Retreat, where Rinpoche asked, Rinpoche had a sudden actually it's not a sudden craving, but Rinpoche was craving a lot for Indian food. And there was very specific dishes that Rinpoche was craving. One of them was puri with aloo bhaji, and another one was vade. And at that time, none of us were, well, apart from myself, none of us were kind of familiar with cooking that much Indian food. So up until that point, what we used to do is we used to go, go to the local Indian restaurant to get the food and bring it back for Rinpoche. So there's one specific time Rinpoche had, Rinpoche had 4 of us in the Ladrang learn up how to make puri and vada and also idli. Rinpoche liked idli a lot. And this was Rinpoche's breakfast food. So all of these dishes are traditionally eaten for breakfast within in Indian culture. So I remember Rinpoche had for a week, every single day, the 4 of us, all we did was was make these dishes and then present them to Rinpoche to try. And at that time, we didn't realize why Rinpoche had asked us to learn up. Because yes, people in KFR eat Indian food, but it's not often that we eat it. So we usually just go and get it from outside. And we didn't realize why Rinpoche was asking us to learn up how to make these dishes. And at the end of it, when our dishes were good, Rinpoche sat us down and then he told us. He said, the reason why I did this is because in the future, there are going to be more Sangha coming to KFR. And the Sangha that we are going to be coming are most likely going to be from our monastery, Shaganden in South India. And being in India, these monks are going to be used to Indian food. So it would be good for Ladrang to learn up, because it would be Ladrang's responsibility to actually look after the Sangha when they're here. So if you guys know how to make it, it will be easier for you to cater to the Sangha when they're here. So this is one of the assignments that Rinpoche gave us. And over the next couple of years, it ranged from Indian food, it went to, and then it kind of turned into Tibetan food. So a couple of us are, not really myself, but a couple of the other Ladrang staff know how to cook Tibetan food as well. And in fact, I think as Sharon will remember just before Rinpoche got ill, Rinpoche had asked us to make to learn up how to make dose. I don't know if Sharon remembers, but Rinpoche had, and at that point we were making, trying out our hand at making dose, and it's not something that I can make, because it's for me, whenever I made it, it turned into a thick piece of rubber. It wasn't dose as we all know it, okay? That we all eat outside. So there's a very big digression from the story, but I just thought I'd pop that in because a lot of people wanted to know what it was like to actually work with Rinpoche and how Rinpoche worked. And this is actually a way that Rinpoche did things. He would always make sure that, especially Ladrang, but not just Ladrang, but also the students, especially within KFR, knew how to do things in relations to the Dharma. And one of the reasons Rinpoche had us learn up is because how to cook various dishes for the Sangha is because the Sangha is the third jewel. It is, of the 3 jewels of Buddhism, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha is the third jewel. So when you do actually serve the Sangha in any way, whether it is cooking their meals, whether it is doing their laundry, whether it's cleaning their rooms, whether it's helping them do their pujas, things like that, any way to serve the Sangha actually generates merit. And that's what Rinpoche wanted for all of us. He wanted a lot of us to generate merit and generate attainments. I remember when one day, a couple of times actually, before Rinpoche passed, Rinpoche said, now that we have established Kechara Forest Retreat, it is not to the level that Rinpoche would like it, because Rinpoche had far greater plans than what we've already achieved. But we do have people here, we do have staff here, we do have people coming in regularly, we do have various events which are now live streamed on Facebook. Rinpoche said now it is the time for people for Kecharians to generate merit, practice the Dharma, and gain attainments. Okay? So, let's see who else is online. Phoebe Yong and Yu Seng and also Wai Ying are also online. Good morning to all of you. Martin's made a comment. He says, not only people, including security guards and sometimes outside contractors. Rinpoche even made sure insects were fed. For the security guards, it was not only about making them eat, but making sure that it's the culture to regard everyone as family, so that we would invite into DA dining areas, seated and served properly. It was a valuable experience. Martin's right. Rinpoche's wanting to feed people wasn't just limited to Ladrang or Dharma staff within Kechara Forest Retreat. It even extended to our security guards and any contractors that would come in to Kechara to help with any of the building or maintenance work, as Martin has said. And it was definitely a valuable experience. And you're probably wondering why. Why would Rinpoche actually ask you to feed someone? It's a very simple thing, giving somebody a meal, cooking for somebody and giving them a meal. But if you actually analyze how we actually live, we only actually usually give food and meals to people that we like. So, for example, in your family, you would cook for your children or your siblings, and other people that you would cook for is friends or colleagues. Okay. Rinpoche's asking us to actually feed people was more than just about it was making sure that they're fed, that they're okay, but it's also about us showing care in how we actually look after other people, and actually looking after other people that we might not necessarily like. For example, you might not know the security guards or the contractors, but we were all asked to make sure that they were properly looked after whenever they came to Keva. In fact, there was a standing instruction, and it's been a standing instruction for many years within the Ladrang, that any contractor, whether it's here in Kechara Forest Retreat or back in KL, any contractor that comes, especially to Ladrang, has to leave having been fed and given drinks, and also snacks for them to take. And this was something that was carried out. Rinpoche said, we usually take people like contractors and security guards for granted. And we think that because we're paying them, it means that we kind of have in the back of our heads that we don't actually need to think about them. We don't actually think about them usually as being human, in the sense that they're not equal to people that we like, such as a family or friends. They're just people that come and do the work and then leave again. They're getting paid, so it's fine. They just do it and they leave. And Rinpoche always told us that that was a wrong mentality, because these are people, and just how you show love and care to your family and to your friends, people like security guards and contractors also deserve that love and that kindness. This is a very good comment by Martin. Thanks for bringing it up. And there's a comment by Sharon. Yes, PNP, Joy and I learned how to make dosai and aloo bhaji. It was quite hilarious how our final dosai turned out. Looks more like some amoeba, far from looking like a dosai. Yeah, correct. Oh yeah, I remember now. Joy was the Rinpoche had asked me to ask you and Joy to learn how to make dosai. Yeah, correct. I also tried to learn, but it didn't work out. Okay, and Sharon's reply to Martin also: no one leaves Ladrang hungry. Yep, that was Rinpoche's motto. No one leaves Ladrang hungry. Okay, so that was a very big digression. Okay, let me get back to the story. Rinpoche continues: no one taught me all this. I wanted Dharma. I ran away from home 3 times to learn Dharma, to serve a guru. I tried hitchhiking from New Jersey to New York, and from New York to California to learn the Dharma. I was successful the 3rd time. So when I came across such a great master, I was not going to lose my chance. After serving Rinpoche dinner, there would be Dharma teachings, which started between 6 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. every evening and finished between midnight and 2 a.m. There were teachings every day for 6 months in Thupten Dagye Ling Center in Los Angeles, and the place was always packed. After cleaning the kitchen, I would run upstairs and make sure everything in Rinpoche's room was all right. If Rinpoche had an audience or people coming to meet him, I would vacuum his room and make sure everything was clean and in order. Then I would go downstairs, ask them to please wait a few minutes and confer with Rinpoche's assistant to see if it was okay. When they said it was okay, I would assist the person into Rinpoche's room. I made sure I did not wait for Rinpoche to come out to call them in. When they went inside Rinpoche's room and had an audience, I would stay nearby quietly, as alert as possible, in case Rinpoche needed anything. I would make sure I never let Rinpoche be without anyone close at hand. After Rinpoche's interviews or divinations, I would assist him downstairs, carry incense, carry his hat, help him to sit on the throne and fix his robes. When he was sitting on the throne, I would not leave his side. Even before he sat down, I would make sure everything was straightened. Then I would sit for Dharma teachings. I had notebooks and more notebooks filled with notes. The notes that I wrote down then are still very useful to me now. In between teachings, if Rinpoche needed anything, I would attend to him. I would make sure his thermos was always filled with whatever he needed. If the teachings were exceptionally long, I would assist Rinpoche upstairs after they were finished. If I had to help, explain or talk about some questions with the Dharma students, I would do so. If Geshe-la needed something, I would attend to him. If not, I would go upstairs and give Rinpoche a massage. Just want to stop there for a little bit and talk about audiences. So, any High Lama would meet with people, and so this meeting with people is having an audience. You have an audience with a particular High Lama. Now, I remember my first audience with Rinpoche. So many of you would probably know that I was born and brought up in the UK, and at that point I was having some difficulties. I was going through some issues, which is when I decided to come to Malaysia to see what Kechara was all about. Because at that point I'd come across Rinpoche's teachings online on YouTube, and by practicing them I had my problems started to be solved a little bit. So I had some time off work, and then I thought I wanted to go abroad, so I decided to go to Malaysia. And when I arrived, I basically stayed in Kechara House in KL, and then was taken around the various departments, spent a couple of days in every department helping out, volunteering, just to see what Kechara was doing. And on the last night, I remember that Rinpoche came. The last night that I was here, I got a message that Rinpoche wanted to see me. And I was taken to his residence in KL. And then I had an audience with Rinpoche. And my audience probably only lasted for about half an hour, 45 minutes. But that audience I remember quite clearly. And audiences, at that time, I thought that audiences were, I didn't know what it was, because I was very new to Buddhism, as in what an audience entails. And I thought it was just going to be me, maybe one or two other people with Rinpoche, and that, it's just meeting a High Lama. But when I actually got there, I actually found that there was probably about, I think at that point there was around 10 Ladrang staff, and they were all in attendance with Rinpoche. And when I met Rinpoche for the first time, and I kind of walked into the audience thinking that, oh, I think Rinpoche is gonna, I've walked into the middle of a meeting or something, because there were so many people around. And then Rinpoche sits down, and then people were there to assist Rinpoche. And Rinpoche just started talking to me. And it was very strange that I kind of felt a little bit awkward, because it was just me in the room talking with Rinpoche, but there was around 10 other people in the room. And then I wondered, at the beginning when I sat down, I was wondering why. But then as the audience progressed, I actually figured out why. Some of them were there to make sure that Rinpoche had everything he needed, whether it was a hot drink, or whether it was maybe a snack if Rinpoche was hungry. But they were also there to make sure that I was okay, to make sure that I had a snack if I was hungry, or if that I had a hot drink if I needed one. And at the same time, at that time, nobody leaves an audience with Rinpoche without getting a Dharma gift, whether it is a picture, whether it is a tata or a statue or a Dharma book, which Rinpoche gave out a lot. Everybody would leave with something. And the other people that were there in the audience were there to make sure that they were on hand to get Rinpoche anything he needed, if he needed anything physically. So what I'm trying to explain is, I'm trying to let you understand what a typical audience is like. Okay. Later on, after I joined Ladrang, I was actually, because I was part of the team that helped serve Rinpoche, I was actually one of the people that would actually help to prepare for audiences that Rinpoche would had with people, to also assist during audiences. Now, audiences was something that I heard that Rinpoche used to have a lot of previously in the past. But ever since I joined Ladrang, Rinpoche had a tendency to not have that many audiences. Rinpoche still had audiences with people who really needed help, but generally speaking, there weren't that many audiences. And somebody, a couple of months ago actually, somebody asked me why. Why was it that Rinpoche's had, lesser audiences in the last couple of years? And Rinpoche had actually told me and a couple of others why he lessened his audiences. And the reason is because his focus was on KFR. His focus was also on making sure that the blog was up. There were things coming out, there were articles being published, that whatever was published was full of Dharma. And the person kind of turned around and asked, and said to me, well, doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of a Lama, of having a guru? And I didn't quite understand what that person meant. So I asked them to explain a bit. And he said, isn't a guru supposed to help people? So since he had less audiences in the last couple of years, he's not helping people. because he's not meeting them. And I was a little bit gobsmacked at that comment, but then I thought about it, and then I kind of understood where the person was coming from. Because the person was thinking that a guru or lama can only help you if you're physically in front of them, and that is not the case. Just take my story for example. When the ways that Rinpoche helped me when I was first starting out in Dharma practice wasn't physically. I was on the other side of the planet, and how Rinpoche helped me was actually through his YouTube videos, through his articles on the blog, and it was in that sense that I had benefited from Rinpoche. And this is something that Rinpoche wanted to make sure was done, because he had all of this knowledge, he had all of this ways in which to help people, and he wanted to make sure that it was recorded down, so that, and provided free for anybody that needed help. And a good example is this book. Again, remember I told you that this book is based on a 3-day teaching that Rinpoche gave. So yes, this book is sold by Kechara, because obviously we need to cover the costs of printing, and other associated costs with having a physical text. But the entire talk is on YouTube, and it's given free. It's provided free for everyone. And this is something that Rinpoche was very close to Rinpoche's heart. So Rinpoche was always of the opinion that, okay, I might not be meeting people, but at least I'm doing something. And then from Rinpoche's thought, when Rinpoche said when he's no longer around, which unfortunately for all of us, he is no longer with us, his teachings are still here. We have YouTube, we have the blog, you also have the pastors and senior students who have been trained by Rinpoche, La Drang staff in Kechara Forest Retreat. Everybody has, in some way or form, actually, we are basically the embodiments of what Rinpoche taught. And yeah, we are. And so are all of you, actually, because if most of everybody here who has joined is actually quite familiar with Rinpoche and Rinpoche's teachings. You are actually the embodiment of Rinpoche's teachings as well, because you know it, you have learnt it. Whether or not you're practicing it, that is a different question, but it is within you. His teachings are within you. Okay? Okay, Pastor Gimli has also joined, and Kamala is also online. Good morning to both of you. Martin has a comment. One thing a lot of people don't know is how sometimes during BFs, sessions where Rinpoche sometimes used wrathful methods, such as scolding people or groups of people, Rinpoche would quietly ask for drinks and snacks to be prepared and brought in for the people supposedly being disciplined. It was during such occasions that you could see that behind the sometimes wrathful dispositions was a very kind and loving teacher, more caring and loving than most parents. Those weren't in fact scoldings, but shortcut purification sessions for the people involved. In other words, karmas got purified, people got served with food, and then usually teachings follow. Martin's brought up a very, very good point. Not just Rinpoche, but Tibetan Lamas in general. Actually, not even just Tibetan Lamas. I know Thai Buddhist masters that were very strict with their students as well. Sometimes Lamas and masters, when they're teaching their students, they need to use wrathful methods. And what does it mean by wrathful methods? It means that they come across as looking angry, or that they would actually, most importantly, out of the wrathful methods, is actually their use of speech to help a student purify a particular karma. Now, a teacher would use wrathful methods when other methods have failed in enacting a change within the student's mind. So, having personal experience with Rinpoche, whatever we did, Rinpoche would was a very keen sense of a person's character. And just the way you moved, just the way you reacted to a particular situation or a particular situation or a particular person or a particular way somebody spoke at you, Rinpoche could judge where your mind was. And after Rinpoche did that, he would actually help you in transforming your mind to become a better person. But there were some times that the usual methods that Rinpoche employed might not have worked, and in which cases, if these behaviors were negative, if they were creating negative karma for that person or creating negative karma or negative situations, Rinpoche would employ wrathful methods, which was basically a scolding. So like how you would get scolded by your parents when you were younger for doing something a bit naughty, Rinpoche would use his words to scold. And this was a method that this is a method that the highly attained beings use to actually help purify your negative karma. And once that negative karma is purified, or once that little scolding session is over, you would actually see that student actually be able to transform their mind in a more positive, productive manner, and overcome any of the negative qualities that they were exhibiting at that point. And what Martin has brought up is that even at that point, Rinpoche would, if he was scolding you, he would secretly turn to the side, call somebody over, whisper them to prepare food and drinks. And the food and drinks wasn't for, Rinpoche would ask for himself if he was hungry. Obviously, the Ladrang people are there to be his assistants, but he would also ask for the person that he is supposedly scolding. So in this sense, you can see that Rinpoche was extremely compassionate. He wasn't somebody that would scold a person for scolding. It was to actually help purify that person of a particular negative karma. But he was also providing for them at the same time. So you could literally see that compassion in action. And as Martin has rightly said, usually following one of those little scolding sessions, there would be a very profound teaching that would follow for that person that was being scolded, and for actually anybody who happened to be around at that time. So it's a very good comment, Martin. Thank you for bringing it up. Sharon was replying to Martin, and he said, and Rinpoche would always remember to remind the person preparing the food to prepare special meals for those with medical issues. And those older ones, Rinpoche would ensure that they were comfortable and had hot drinks during longer teachings and meetings. Yeah. Rinpoche was very aware of any health issues that people had, and he would make sure that if these people who had medical issues were in the audiences or just a general meeting, or we were working together to make sure, to research and to write particular articles, that people had food, and those with special medical needs, they had special food prepared for them according to whatever issue they had. Martin has also, I've just seen another comment. Personally, I make it a point to listen to as many teachings by the Kechara pastors as possible, because to me they represent Rinpoche. Their form may be different to the Lama, but their substance is made up of Rinpoche's Dharma, and so we should regard them as vessels of Rinpoche's life work. Listening to pastors and regarding them properly is one important way of serving the Lama and upholding his work, even though many may not physically be around for a while. Even though he may not physically be around for a while. This to me is vital, to regard the pastors as Rinpoche's Sangha. And I would just like to add, it's not only that, it's also some of our senior students as well. They actually have a lot of Dharma knowledge in them that has been imparted by Rinpoche. Not necessarily in more formal ways as some of the pastors have received from Rinpoche, but definitely I think everyone in Kechara to me is Sangha. One of the things that I've noticed when I have been in Kechara after Rinpoche's passed away is that I look at people in Kefar, and not just in Kefar, even in KH and other departments and everything, and I realize, as I said before, that they've all benefited from Rinpoche's teachings and Rinpoche in a way. And I don't just mean physically, I actually mean mentally, emotionally, spiritually speaking. Some form of transformation has occurred for everybody that has met Rinpoche, has received teachings from Rinpoche. But the thing is that the thing of transformation, this benefiting from Rinpoche, hasn't stopped. It really hasn't stopped. It is still ongoing. People are still reading articles online. People are still learning. People are still watching Rinpoche's videos. People are still talking to people, to me as a pastor, and have actually seen an improvement in their life through what, either I've shared with them or other pastors have shared with them, what they've read online, what they've watched online. And it is amazing to see how Rinpoche's teachings are still benefiting people. And I think that's exactly what Rinpoche wanted. Okay, I see Pastor David is also online. Good morning, Pastor David. And also Jacinta is replying to Martin. Paying respect to every pore of Rinpoche is important, even to those around Rinpoche, Rinpoche's dog, his students, and his servants. Yep. One of the things that would be covered in the book briefly is actually the 50 verses of Guru devotion. This book covers Guru devotion actually. It covers the major points of Guru devotion. But one of the things that I'm reminded of from Jacinta's comment is actually the 50 verses of Guru devotion. And that's actually something that's covered in this book. But I'm going to be going into that in more detail on my in my Tuesday session starting this week on the Kechara Facebook page. Which is Easy Dharma for the New Normal. So if you want to know more specifically about the 50 verses of Guru devotion, you can join me for that session there on Tuesday. Okay, so let me carry on. Usually, if I could, I would give Rinpoche a massage nightly. Once in a blue moon, Rinpoche had a headache, so I would have the honor to touch his head. I would wash my hands, purify them with incense, and make 3 prostrations before I massaged his head. Whether I was clean or not would not affect Rinpoche, but to be conscientious about what I was doing and who I was serving would affect me and my awareness. Why? Because I wanted attainments. I would massage Rinpoche's head very gently. I would make sure my nails were cut so I would not puncture his skin. I would be very careful and very aware because I was touching my Guru's head. My Guru, the one who confers on me Dharma. That was the reason I left my home and school to learn Dharma. After Dharma teachings, everyone would go home. I lived at the Dharma center, so I would stay up to clean the kitchen, wash the floor, mop and clean the cabinets. I did it to make the place clean for when people came to see Dzong Rinpoche in Geshe-la, so my gurus would not be misrepresented. I did it to make the place clean for Dzong Rinpoche's feet to step on, if he walked downstairs and past the kitchen. I wanted to be sure of that. Every once in a while, Geshe-la would come downstairs on his way somewhere. He would look at what I was doing, but he would not say anything to me. He would just pat me on the back, which meant he was very pleased. I did not get any gifts, flowery praises, or any of that stuff. That was the reward I got. It was more than enough. I did not care about the people who were not happy about me in the beginning and thought I would misrepresent Rinpoche. I've proved them all wrong and silenced them. After that, no one had a complaint. No one even talked about the burned chicken I offered Rinpoche or the uncooked potatoes that Rinpoche patiently ate. I will never forget those days. I never look back on those days as work. I have never regretted, felt tired, or felt I did not want to do it. Never. Not even once in my life for the last 20 years. Oh my God, it was so much work, but I do not remember being in pain or being sick. I felt I was collecting merits with a person without faults, that everything I did would accelerate my Dharma practice and my Dharma attainments. In that 1 year, I did not go out to any clubs or meet any of my non-Dharma friends, and the year passed so quickly. I cannot explain to you how wonderful, talking about, the last comment, and the year passed so quickly. This is very, very, very true. When you are doing Dharma work, when you are actually focused on other people, and especially when we were with Rinpoche, time passed very, very quickly. Very quickly. I think I've been part of Le Drang now for 4 years, and sometimes on some days I still feel like I'm new to Le Drang. It doesn't have a feeling that it's been 4 years. It almost feels like yesterday. I cannot explain to you how wonderful those days were of cooking, cleaning, and serving my teacher, and receiving Dharma every single night. Sometimes I cannot believe I was there. I was in mortal fear that Rinpoche would leave. I could not even think of the day he was leaving. When Dzong Rinpoche passed away, I did not recover for months, almost years. Even though going to India was exciting, it was empty. I felt empty going to Dharamsala and to Ganden in India. And when I went to his house, I felt empty because I expected him to come out, to walk around, or to be there, but he was not. I kept my promise because I said I would enter his house, I would go to India, and I would join Ganden. There was a time after Dzong Rinpoche passed away that I thought I was not going to do that anymore. I was going to pursue acting and entertainment. But one day I sat down and I asked myself, do I believe he is Heruka or not? It was a very difficult question because it was a very easy way to escape and to say, well, my guru died. I can't go to India and join him anymore. The answer came out that yes, he is not physically in front of me, but Buddha Heruka is all-pervasive. If I made a promise to him, I must keep it, whether he was directly watching me or not. I told myself that I was going to do it, so I packed up everything and went to India. Dzong Rinpoche taught me the Dharma. His lineage was pure. He conferred on me the highest initiations and gave me my Dharma protector practices and all the paths of Dharma from the Lamrim Chenmo to the highest practices. He scolded me, he shouted at me, he gave me so much love that everything I am doing today is totally a result of his kindness. He is the only person I miss every single day. I do not have much attachment to people. The retreats that I was able to do and the little bit of improvement I have experienced all stem from him. I will never ever give up my vows and commitments and promises I made to my root Guru, even at the cost of my life. One big reason that I teach Dharma today is because of Tsem Rinpoche and the promises I made to him. If I break my promise to Rinpoche, then there are no more Buddhas from me. The Buddhas do not exist anymore. If I cannot commit to such a person who has taught me the Dharma and has shown me so much kindness, who can I commit to? A wife? A friend? A business partner? What is the long-term benefit of that? I am committed to my Guru. I have an attachment for him, in parentheses, because I have not met anyone like that. I have committed to my Guru because he has given me the highest empowerments and I know their benefits. I know how important they are and how rare they are, and to get it from such a master is incredible. I wish so much that I could learn from him, be near him and serve him. I would not mind being his servant for the rest of my life. To travel with him, to be his servant, quietly. To sit on the floor near him so he can teach the Dharma. There is no difference if he teaches or if I teach, as long as the Dharma is taught. When I read the manuals of Guru devotion and how we should conduct ourselves with our Guru, I resolve that I would follow it in every way. I have not made any infractions of my Guru devotion, not that I know of. I have never spoken against my Gurus. I have never argued or fought with my Gurus. I would not dare. In the presence of my Rinpoche, I never slouched, because that is what the 50 verses on Guru devotion advises, and I know why now. It is to create awareness. It would be good manners not to slouch in front of anybody, wouldn't it? My Guru was teaching me good manners so that when I went out into the world, I could be more effective in whatever I wanted to do with others. I never slouched in front of my teacher. I never farted, I never burped. If I coughed, I covered myself. I did not stretch myself, twist my body around, massage myself, or crack my knuckles, because that is what the 50 verses instructs. It is about awareness and manners. If we cannot do that in front of our Dharma teacher, who can we do that in front of? That is the whole purpose of having a Dharma teacher, to bring the awareness to the forefront. I would be very aware of that. I would keep my commitments to someone who is giving me the most powerful initiation, whether he is around or he is not. I have promised him and I have said yes. When we say yes, when we promise something, we have to do it. Our integrity, our reputation, our self-growth and our spiritual growth lies behind that. Our lineage, our face, our parents and everything good that we represent lie behind that. When we say yes, we have to do it. I have met many masters and they were all very kind and I have received so much from them, but the one who left the greatest impact, an indelible mark on me for the rest of my life, was Tsem Rinpoche. This is what made me go on for many years, and that is why I encourage people towards Guru devotion. I am not interested in being people's Guru. I am interested in people having Guru devotion. Whatever Gurus they have, I am not interested in taking them away or separating them, because how would I feel? How did I feel when I separated from my Guru? I would not want that feeling for anyone. It still shocks me when people make promises to me as their Dharma teacher and they break their promises, because I am not able to do that. I am not able to be rude to my Gurus, young, old or reincarnated. How can we be rude, lie to, talk about or scorn someone who has taught us the Dharma from the heart? It is a knowledge that we can use to better our lives. If we scorn our Guru, say negative things, make him upset, fight, whisper behind his back, retaliate or break our promises to him, then everybody else is just below that. Then we can do it to everybody and anybody. I encourage Guru devotion practice. I encourage devotion to one's teacher. I encourage people to keep their samaya and keep their commitments clean. If we do not, then where does a spiritual practice go? What can having no commitment equate to? I am wishy-washy about everything else, but not with the Dharma, Guru devotion, commitments and promises I made to my Guru. I cannot be wishy-washy on that. I want attainments. I want to make my mind ascend another level, and I want to get the results of my practice. So I'm going to follow the hard and fast rules that will bring the result. All the gurus from Tibet, all the gurus from India, all those great Mahasiddhas cannot be wrong. Guru devotion cannot be wrong because every master I have met talks about it, and the very attained ones that take it as the pith of their practice, they cannot be wrong. So I've just finished reading the section on His Holiness Gebje Dzong Rinpoche, and through that we could see how Rinpoche felt about his guru, and how Rinpoche felt about guru devotion. So I'm actually very glad that I could share that with all of you. It is a story that a lot of people within Kechara will know, purely because Tsem Rinpoche went over it so many times, again and again and again. His time with Dzong Rinpoche was the most pivotal time in Rinpoche's life, and he wanted us to make sure why, and he wanted us to actually understand that having guru devotion leads to attainments. And one of the things that Rinpoche mentioned he mentioned is that things like conduct, how we conduct ourselves when we're in front of our guru, actually leads us to greater awareness of what we're doing, of how we're acting, of just generally behaving. Because a lot of people at the when you're in a situation, you tend to fall back to your habits of slouching and I'm doing it right now. I'm leaning forward over the table and I'm slouching. So it is about awareness. One of the things that Rinpoche, I was reading something written by one of our staff, Joy, the other day, and she was writing about Rinpoche's altars. Now, Rinpoche had an altar in any room that Rinpoche was staying in. Rinpoche had an altar, because Rinpoche was always about generating merits and purifying karma. And the Ladrang staff would actually help to set out the rows and rows of offerings on Rinpoche's altars. And Joy was describing one day that she was asked to help with the water offerings on the altar. And many of us, everybody in Ladrang knows how to make water offerings, and I'm sure from the people who've joined, most of you know how to make it as well. But the simple act of making water offerings actually generates a lot of awareness. And on this particular instance, Rinpoche came and he stood by Joy as she was making the water offerings, just to see how she was doing it, to see if she was aware of what she was doing. Did she drop water on the altar table? Did she spill anything? And what Rinpoche was checking was the whole way that you go about doing your water offering, from turning your bowls up, from pouring water in, making sure that the spacing between the water offerings is correct, and purifying the offerings, and to making sure everything is perfect, because it's an offering to the Buddhas. And it's a practice in awareness of actually being in that precise moment. It is actually a meditation. And it brought to mind a lot of people, a lot of New Age people these days, they look at something like the Japanese tea ceremony as something that is very in the moment, that is very in the present. So a lot of Westerners these days are mad about doing a traditional Japanese tea ceremony, because the whole way of doing it, the traditions behind it, not just the traditions, but the awareness that people feel when they partake in tea ceremonies, they say it makes them more aware and more grounded. Actually, this is what all of us are doing every day. We're making our water offerings, and water offerings itself is an entire meditation on awareness, as well as making very pure offerings to the Buddha. It does actually develop a lot of awareness. So that's just a point that I wanted to bring up to elucidate what Rinpoche was saying more, in more of a practical aspect of it. So if you do have any questions, please do ask, because I've finished reading the section for today. But I have seen we do have some comments. Sharon said, Rinpoche's legacy is very much alive. It is still benefiting many out there. A good proof is this MCO. Many people are benefiting from the many live streamings, be it JP's mindful morning meditation, right to the pastor's Dharma sharing. It continues Rinpoche's legacy. We can support by participating, sharing, and even giving some kuyong for the pastor's hard work. Sharon's right. The reason that we are doing all of these live streamings is because for some of us, Rinpoche told us that what we know, we need to share it with others. And so that's what we're doing through these live streamings. Usually we would do it when people, come to Kechara, but obviously with the MCO, or the RMCO now I think it's called, people can't come. At the moment, Kechara is still not open. So we're going to continue with these live streamings, because hopefully it has been benefiting everyone, and hopefully you've been learning a little bit more, and hopefully you can put into practice, which is the most important thing, what you have been learning, what we've been sharing with you. It's all about putting what you know into practice within Buddhism. And there is also a comment from Martin. Even though Rinpoche is not physically around, there is no question that Rinpoche's blessings and protection remain, and Rinpoche's prayers to the Buddhas for us remain. Years ago, Rinpoche told me that at the right time he would make sure that my mother would be looked after. Recently, my mother had a heart attack right inside the clinic of a heart specialist. She underwent a triple bypass, which she could not have been able to undergo due to her age, and came out superbly. All these are works of merits gained from having the chance to serve the Lama. I was thinking that Rinpoche is still keeping his promises, and we must act like Rinpoche is still around. Martin, I'm glad to hear that your mother is doing better. And you're right, Rinpoche's blessings and protection are still here, still around. Some of us can literally feel it every single day, and he may not be here physically, but as Rinpoche said as Tsem Rinpoche said of Dzong Rinpoche in this book, do we believe that our Rinpoche, Tsem Rinpoche, is Heruka? And if you do, and if you believe he is a Buddha, he is the Buddha Heruka, then Heruka is all pervasive. I mean, Rinpoche and Heruka are one in nature, so Rinpoche is everywhere. He's all pervasive. He is a Buddha, he's an enlightened being. So physically, yes, he's not around. Energetically, legacy-wise, in the terms of the Dharma he's taught, in the terms of the people he's helped, he's still here. Okay. So I'm going to end the session a little bit early, because the next sections actually go into more of a explanation about the Guru, but this is something that I'll talk about more in next week's session. So I don't see any questions today, so I'm going to leave it there. Before I do actually end the session, these sessions we are providing them for all of you, but they can be sponsored. If you would like to sponsor any live streaming session, you can do so on the link that's provided in the comment section, and that basically helps us to cover costs of actually doing this. And one of the things we do is we dedicate the merits that we have generated from this particular session, from the particular live stream, to the sponsor. So the sponsor for today's session is Kong Iman, and the dedication, which is very beautiful, is that may there be more unceasing true compassion and wisdom amongst all sentient beings. So Iman, I'm dedicating the merits that we have generated from listening to the Dharma and contemplating it, and to learning about Rinpoche, about Guru devotion, as per your dedication. So I will do a completion dedication to make sure that remember, if you've been watching my Easy Dharma for the new normal, everything must be preceded by take refuge, then you do a virtuous activity, and then you dedicate. Okay, so I took refuge earlier, and then obviously through this, sharing the Dharma and listening to the Dharma, understanding it, we're generating merit. So now we'll do the dedication, and that will actually transform this live streaming into a merit making activity. So if you are watching this live streaming, please do make sure that you do dedicate the merits generated from just listening to the Dharma. Okay? Chanju Samjo Rinpoche, Makebanam Geguchi, Gyapanyama Mepaya, Gondegundu Pewashu, Tony Tongwa Rinpoche, Makebanam Geguchi, Gyapanyama Mepaya, Gondegundu Pewash, Nasojine Sapagewadi, Tanandruwangun Langampada, Jepajasun Losandrapai, Tambenim Purindusa, Sho, Kieva Continiata Lamada, Dramechiki Pala Lochuch, Stadanyam Giontera Zone, Doji Jangingo Parmito Show, Gewadi, Nudo. Gewadi Nudoda Lama Samgedukune, Wachiko Malupa, De Salago Pacho, Chekika Potsongkapa, Josunama Pewala, Gekishamazi Wada, Tungi Malu Zamach, Dana Sandendusanda, the Watotena Tene, Yawa Losandrapai, Tampari, Huge, New Modele Sandale, Nimegongan Delechin, Nitan Toto Telepao, Condusum Richinchi, Condusum Nuduso, Condusum Ritashi, Show, Jetsunama Kutserantechin, Nakotrini Chuchiapat, Losanta Medo Mesasungi, Doe Mutatune, Huge, Gangrida Corporation come there, Pendant. Manu Q&A, Channel 1 Shapi City Border Day, Gucci, Hung to Bengal Trumalopa, then the Douglas of the Soul, Quadan Temple Chanam, Gopatso Chick, Shook Dan Cell. So, thank you everyone for joining today's book club as part of Spiritual Saturday. Please do stay on the page. In a little while, we'll be having Wai Ying with her lunch together. Thank you very much for joining.